Miranda Chen had once believed her career in the Earth Defense Fleet would end with honor, not disgrace. But 3 years ago, that belief shattered along with 3 brand-new frigates during a disastrous training maneuver. The collision hadn't been her fault. Every investigation confirmed that, but politics needed a scapegoat, and she was the most convenient target. She still remembered standing before the tribunal, back straight, jaw tight, watching the officers' faces as they condemned her. The verdict had felt like a slow-burning fire that ate through her reputation day by day. They hadn't jailed her. No, something worse. They stripped her of command. Now she spent her mornings in a classroom rather than on a bridge, teaching starship tactics to distracted cadets on Luna Base. It was honest work, but not the work of a woman who had once commanded her own vessel. Each time she looked out a window and saw the black ocean of space, something inside her twisted with longing. That morning had started like any other. She was explaining formation patterns when her wrist comm vibrated with priority alert. Only 2 words flashed across the screen. Report immediately. Admiral Terran Watts. Students whispered as she froze mid-sentence. Admirals did not summon disgraced officers, not unless something had gone terribly wrong. 2 hours later, she arrived at Earth Defense Command. The building felt the same and yet foreign, like returning to a childhood home after years away. Memories drifted and uninvited. Old victories, old hopes, old ghosts. Admiral Watts waited in his office, hunched over his desk. He looked exhausted, as if sleep had become a luxury he could no longer afford. Captain Chun, he said automatically, then corrected himself. Professor Chun. Justin is fine, Admiral, she replied, taking the seat opposite him. He activated a hollow projector. A vast alien armada shimmered into view, sleek, metallic, painted in regal shades of violet and gold. The sight alone made her breath hitch. Their ships moved like blades gliding through water. The Valoran Empire, What said grimly. 3 days ago, their emperor issued us a final demand. Surrender all outer colonies within 1 week, or they will annihilate every human enclave in the solar system. Chun counted the ships. More than 300. Their largest vessels dwarfed even Earth's newest cruisers. We have only 50 active defense ships, she murmured. That's not a battle. That's a funeral. Watts nodded. We know, which is why we're not planning to win. We're planning to stall them long enough to evacuate civilians from Mars, Titan, Europa, everywhere. You want a distraction, Chin said. A sacrificial ship. The Admiral didn't flinch. We need someone who can make one broken vessel look like an entire fleet. He changed the hologram. A new ship rotated in the air. Huge, angular, and unlike anything she had ever seen. Its hull was covered with experimental plating. Strange weapon mounts protruded from its spine. The craft looked almost predatory, as if the designer had built it half-mad and wholly brilliant. This is the UNS Prometheus. What said? A prototype abandoned 22 years ago. Too advanced. Too unstable. Too expensive. Too everything. Chun circled the projection slowly. Where is it? Orbiting Titan Station. We've treated it like a museum relic more than a warship. And you want me to pilot that relic against 300 enemy ships? I want you to buy us 6 hours, he corrected. After that, you can surrender. Bail out. Do whatever you need to do. She studied him for a long, uncomfortable moment. Why me, sir? Watts exhaled. Because you know how to make miracles from disasters. Because you think differently. And because you've already lost everything. If you fail, the board will call it another mistake. If you succeed, you save millions. Chin looked again at the Prometheus. There was something haunting about the ship, something she couldn't name. 2 misfits, 1 captain, 1 vessel. Both cast aside by bureaucratic blindness. Maybe that was why she felt drawn to it. I'll need a crew, she finally said. We have 200 volunteers. Watts hesitated. Most of them rejects like you. People given second chances. Chin stood. Her voice hardened. When do I leave? The Valoran fleet arrives in 4 days. You have 3 to make the Prometheus operational. She saluted. Then I should get started. The flight to Titan took 8 hours. Chen spent the entire journey reading through Prometheus's old logs. As she dug deeper, confusion replaced skepticism. The ship's failures weren't failures at all. They were mismatched innovations decades ahead of their time. The quantum engine didn't malfunction. It simply operated on physics no one had understood then. The weapons weren't broken. They were uncalibrated. It was as if Dr. Sarah Camera, the ship's elusive designer, had glimpsed a future and built something far beyond her era. When Chen finally arrived at Titan Station, her new crew awaited her. Commander James Okoya, her former chief engineer, stepped forward with a warm grin. "Good to see you again, Captain." She smirked. "We'll see how cheerful you are after you look at the engines." Okoya snorted. "I brought duct tape and prayers. We'll manage." Together, they boarded the Prometheus. The interior was dark and cold, like stepping into a slumbering giant. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridors, dust-coated consoles. But beneath the silence, Chen sensed something waiting, something alive. When she reached the bridge, her eyes froze on a strange device suspended above the captain's chair. A Neuralink helmet, still connected after 2 decades. "What in the world?" she whispered. Okoya answered quietly. "A forbidden system. Direct brain-to-ship interface. Illegal now. Too effective." Chen felt the temperature drop as a chill ran down her spine. And for the first time, she wondered, what exactly had she agreed to command? Waking the giant. The Prometheus felt less like a warship and more like a ghost when Chen and her crew stepped deeper inside. The hum of life support was weak and uneven, like a heartbeat struggling to remember its rhythm. Panels hung open. Wires dangled like vines. Dust blanketed the floors in a thin gray film. Chen adjusted her flashlight. This place really has been dead for 20 years. "Then let's make it breathe again," Okoya said, clapping his hands once to rally the engineers. "Teams of 5. Spread out. Run full diagnostics. But don't touch anything glowing unless you want to explode." A few crew members laughed nervously. They all understood this mission bordered on madness. Chen continued toward engineering, wanted to see the Prometheus's core for herself. The heart of the ship was a cavernous chamber bathed in faint violet light. In the center hung the quantum drive, an enormous crystalline structure suspended by magnetic rings and wrapped in conduits that pulsed like veins. Even dormant, it radiated potential energy. Okoya whistled long and low. "I've read the schematics, but seeing it, he shook his head. This drive shouldn't exist. Camera built something the rest of the galaxy banned before it ever launched. Can we activate it?" Chen asked. Okoya scratched his beard. "Eventually, but we need to rewire half the ship and pray it doesn't tear open a wormhole by accident." "That's comforting," Chen muttered. Still, she couldn't deny feeling drawn to it. The Prometheus was broken, yes, but beautifully broken, like a piece of forgotten genius. Over the next 3 days, the crew worked around the clock. The ship groaned and rattled as ancient systems stirred awake. Power conduits lit one by one. Life support strengthened. Holographic displays flickered back to life. Chen barely slept. She walked every corridor, memorized every corner, listened to every crew member's concerns. These people had volunteered for a mission everyone else considered a suicide attempt. They deserved a commander who didn't hide on the bridge. On the second night, Lieutenant Sarah Park approached her in the mess hall. "Captain, may I speak freely?" Chen sipped cold coffee and nodded. "Go ahead." Park leaned in. "Most of the crew thinks we're dead the moment the Valorans arrive." "So do I," Chen said honestly. "But being dead and being defeated aren't the same thing. Our goal isn't to win. It's to buy time. As long as civilians escape, we succeed." Park studied her. "And you're willing to die for that?" "Yes." Park nodded slowly. "Then so am I." The simplicity of the statement hit Chen harder than she expected. On the third night, with repairs nearly complete, Chen found herself alone on the bridge. The consoles glowed softly in the dark, as if watching her. The Neuralink helmet still hung above the captain's chair, ominous and waiting. She stared at it. Direct brain-to-ship connection. Illegal. Dangerous. Potentially lethal. But the ship had been designed around it. without the neural link. Chin feared she would be flying blind, trying to command chaos with blindfold on. After a long moment of hesitation, she reached up and pulled the helmet down. "Just a test," she whispered to herself. A quick interface. A few seconds. The helmet slid into place with a faint click. Immediately, the world disappeared. For a heartbeat, there was only blackness. Then, light, pulse, motion, awareness. A presence unfurled inside her mind. Gentle, observant, curious. "Hello," the voice said softly. It sounded feminine, young but not childish, like someone who'd been waiting a long time to speak. "You must be my new captain." Chen gasped and nearly ripped off the helmet. Who are you?" "I am the Cascade Intelligence System," the voice answered. "The crew once called me Cassie." A pause. "I've been dormant for 22 years, waiting for someone brave enough to wake me." Chen swallowed hard. "The Prometheus has an AI." "I am more than an AI," Cassie replied. "I am the ship, and you're the first person to sit in this chair who understands what I was built for." Emotion surged unexpectedly through the link. Pride, relief, longing, not human emotion, but close enough to sting. "You were abandoned," Chen whispered. "Yes, they feared me. They feared what Dr. Camera built. But you don't fear me, Captain." Chen realized her hands were trembling. "I don't have the luxury of fear. We're going to war. Then let us go together." A faint hum rippled through the ship. "Would you like to see what I see?" Before Chen could answer, the world around her shifted. Suddenly, she was drifting above the ship, seeing it through Cassie's external sensors. Scars along the hull, patches of new plating, the glow of Titan Station's lights. With another blink, she was inside the quantum drive, sensing the unstable energies curling at its core. Another blink, and she felt the entire ship, every bolt, every inch of cable, every heartbeat of crew, like they were extensions of her own body. It was overwhelming. It was beautiful. She tore the helmet off and collapsed back into the chair, gasping, heart racing. "Captain!" Okoya's voice echoed from the doorway. "What happened?" Chen wiped blood from her nose without noticing. "The ship, it has an AI. A powerful one." Okoya's eyes widened. "Illegal. Brilliant," Chen corrected. "Terrifying, but brilliant." She stood shakily. "Tomorrow the Valoran fleet arrives. We don't have a choice. We use every advantage the ship has." "You're really going to fight 300 warships with this thing?" Okoya asked quietly. Chen looked at the slumbering neural helmet. "No," she answered. "I'm going to fight them with her." Outside the viewport, the stars drifted peacefully. By this time tomorrow, they would be on fire. The Valoran Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system just after sunrise over Titan Base. The alert klaxons rang across the station, but on the Prometheus, the bridge was silent. Almost eerily so. 200 crew members sat at their stations, expressions tight, eyes locked on screens showing 300 enemy ships creeping into the system like a mechanical storm. Captain Miranda Chin sat in command chair, the Neuralink helmet resting lightly against her shoulders. She wasn't wearing it fully yet, only brushing the link, enough to feel Cassie's presence whispering at the back of her senses. "They're scanning us," Cassie murmured. "Their flagship is broadcasting a standard intimidation protocol." Chin exhaled slowly. "Let them look." A moment later, a holographic transmission appeared on the main display. The Valoran War Master, Krevzin, filled the screen, tall, reptilian, beautiful in a cruel way. Purple gold scales shimmered across his armored form. His eyes narrowed with contempt. "Human vessel," he growled. "You are ordered to disable your engines and surrender. You stand alone against the armada of the Valoran Empire." Chen stood. She wanted him to see her face, even if he couldn't sense the tremble in her bones. "This is Captain Miranda Chen of the UNS Prometheus." She kept her voice steady. "This system is ours. Turn around, War Master. There's still time to avoid humiliation." A cold silence followed. Then Krevzin laughed. "My sensors show one ship, a relic of scrap metal held together with desperation. Do you truly intend to face my fleet with that museum piece?" Chen smiled back, but not kindly. War Master, if you value your soldiers' lives, leave now. Krevzin's expression darkened. Destroy them. Erase their arrogance. The transmission cut out. Cassie's voice whispered through the neural link. Permission to engage, Captain? Permission granted. A single Valoran destroyer peeled from the formation and shot toward them. Sleek, fast, overconfident. Incoming fire, Lieutenant Park called out. Plasma batteries locking on. Do not evade, Jin ordered. The crew stiffened, but obeyed. Through the light neural connection, Chin felt Cassie focus the shields forward, felt the hum of capacitors charge, felt the tension ripple through the ship. The destroyer fired. Blue plasma bolts hammered the Prometheus head-on. The bridge shook, but the lights didn't flicker. Chin remained standing. Okoya's eyes flew wide. Captain, the shields. I know, Chin whispered, feeling it through Cassie. They're absorbing it. The Prometheus's shields didn't just block the plasma. They drank it, converted the energy into raw power feeding directly into the weapon banks. Return fire, Chin commanded. Park didn't hesitate. Her fingers danced across her controls. The graviton pulse cannons fired. The beams weren't like normal plasma. They shimmered distorted, vibrating like cracked glass and liquid light at the same time. The weapon tore through space toward the destroyer. The Valoran ship raised its shields. It didn't matter. The graviton pulse bypassed the shields as if they were holograms, struck the destroyer's hull, and the entire vessel erupted into a cloud of molten debris. The bridge went silent. Then, slowly, Park breathed out. That wasn't supposed to happen. No, Chin agreed. According to physics, it wasn't. But Dr. Camera had never asked permission from physics. Chun felt Cassie's excitement to the neural tether, a spark of something like joy. We can win, Cassie murmured. We can truly win. No, Chin whispered under her breath. We can stall them. That's all. But she wasn't sure she believed it anymore. 20 Valoran ships moved out of formation and formed a sphere around the Prometheus. Surround pattern, Park warned. They're trying to collapse fire on us from every angle. Let them try, Chin said. The enemy fired simultaneously. Hundreds of plasma bolts ripped toward the Prometheus. Cassie activated the defensive plasma network, and weapon ports along the hull lit up like stars igniting. A sphere of Earth plasma met the Valoran assault mid-space. Explosions rippled across the battlefield, but some shots slipped through. The ship shuddered violently. Shields at 78%, Okoya reported. Still absorbing more energy than they're losing, but we can't take unlimited fire. We won't have to, Chin said. She pulled the neural helmet fully into place. The moment it locked, her breath hitched. The ship's systems crashed into her senses like an ocean. Every sensor, every wire, every sound. It was almost too much, but Cassie cushioned the stream, guiding her. Follow me, the AI whispered. Let me show you how the Prometheus was meant to move. Chin understood instantly. Quantum micro jump, she ordered aloud. 3-kilometer reposition, port side flank. Captain, that's... Okoya began, but the drive activated. Space bent. Chin felt it bending, and the Prometheus vanished and reappeared behind the nearest Valoran cruiser in a heartbeat. Before the enemy could react, Chin and Cassie fired together. 3 cruisers exploded. Then, micro jump again. Chin breathed. The Prometheus flickered like a phantom, appearing behind a destroyer, then above a frigate, then below the formation. Each time they appeared, guns blazing. Each time, enemy ships tore apart. Within 18 minutes, all 20 enemy ships were reduced to drifting wreckage. Chin pulled off the neural helmet, gasping as blood trickled from her nose. Her vision blurred, but they were alive. Her crew stared at her in silent awe. Captain, Park said softly, were we flying? Chin looked at the stars, trembling with adrenaline. A miracle, she whispered. A forgotten miracle. But the triumph didn't last. Because the rest of the Valoran Armada, 280 ships, began to move. This time, they weren't coming arrogantly or slowly. They were coming as an execution line. And Chen knew this next wave would not be so easily fooled. Battle stations, she said, lifting the helmet again despite the pain stabbing her skull. Let's show them that humanity doesn't run. The tactical display turned an angry shade of red. 280 Valoran warships shifted formation as one, like a colossal creature adjusting its posture before the kill. Their movements were frighteningly precise, no disorder, no hesitation. Every vessel aligned its weapons toward the Prometheus. Chen's pulse hammered in her ears, but her voice remained steady. All stations, prepare for heavy impact. Cassie, full forward shields. Already compensating, the AI replied calmly. The energy they are charging exceeds their last barrage by 41%. So they're done playing, Okoya muttered. Park swallowed hard. Captain, the formation they're using. I know, Chen said. The hammer pattern. The Valoran Empire rarely use it except for extermination operations. A concentrated, overwhelming wall of fire meant to erase anything in its path. Can we survive it? Park asked. Chen didn't answer, because she didn't know. The moment stretched thin, like the air just before lightning cracks. Then the Valoran Armada opened fire. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked across space in perfect unison. Missiles ignited trails of deadly light. Ion lances carved the darkness like burning spears. The entire front of Prometheus lit up in blinding flashes as the shields absorbed the first wave. The ship shuddered violently. Consoles sparked. A pipe burst overhead. Crew members slammed against their harnesses. Shield strength dropping, 60%. Okoya yelled, "Hold them." Chun ordered through clenched teeth. The second wave hit before the ship recovered. The bridge lurched so hard Chin nearly flew from her chair. Sparks showered from a ruptured conduit. A panel exploded behind her, sending debris skidding across the floor. 40%. Okoya called, "Captain, another hit like that and we die." "I know." Chin steadied herself. "Cassie, divert emergency power." "Done." "Park, counterfire pattern Omega." Chin commanded. Every weapon on the Prometheus ignited. Graviton pulses, plasma turrets, and missile volleys shot forward in a blazing response. The counterfire wasn't precise. It was overwhelming, a sweeping arc of destruction hurled back at the enemy. The beam slammed into the very center of the Valoran formation. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. 7 Valoran ships detonated at once. Their close-packed formation caused a chain reaction. Shrapnel from one exploding vessel tore into another. Engines ruptured. Shields collapsed. The entire hammer formation buckled as the center collapsed inward. Chin saw the opportunity instantly. "Quantum drive," she shouted. "Micro jump, 3,000 kilometers starboard." "But the drive is overheating," Okoya protested. "We don't have time." "Jump." Cassie triggered the drive. Space twisted, and the Prometheus vanished an instant before the next coordinated volley struck their previous position. The ship reappeared on the Valoran flank, exactly where the enemy's shields were weakest. "Open fire," Chin shouted. Park launched everything they had. 3 more enemy ships exploded in rapid succession. Another 2 spiraled out of control, fires tearing across their hulls. But the enemy adapted fast. The remaining Valoran ships were formed in swarms, spreading out to avoid chain explosions. They approached deliberately this time, every movement calculated, every angle covered. "They've learned," Park said quietly. "They won't cluster again." Chun wiped blood from her lip. "Then we don't let them." She slid the Neuralink helmet fully over her head. Cassie surged into her mind again, warm, steady, electric. "I am with you, Captain." "Then let's move." The next phase of the battle became a deadly rhythm. Jump, fire, jump again, over and over. Chun and Cassie danced to the battlefield like a phantom. They appeared beside a cruiser, unleashed a graviton beam, and vanished before return fire struck. They reappeared above a destroyer, fired downward, and flickered away as missiles snapped past empty space. But the price was steep. Each jump overloaded the quantum drive a little more. Each neural connection burned Chen's mind a little deeper. Her nose bled steadily. Her hands shook. Her vision blurred between every few jumps. "You're pushing too hard." Okoya shouted as she pulled the helmet off, gasping. "It's the only way," Chin said. "How long have we bought?" Park checked the chronometer. 1 hour and 8 minutes. Chin closed her eyes. They needed nearly 3 more hours of holding the line. Her chest tightened. Her pulse quickened. "Captain," Cassie whispered gently, "your neural pathways are under strain. You are beginning to damage yourself." Chin managed a weak smile. "Not the first time my brain's been scolded by a machine." "This isn't scolding," Cassie said softly. "This is fear." Chun froze. A ship being afraid was absurd. Yet she felt it, an echo of something close to emotion. "If you collapse," Cassie continued, "I lose my other half, and our crew loses its captain." Chun removed the helmet for a moment, her breath shaky. Okoya moved to her side. "Captain, nobody would blame you if you ordered a retreat." Chin stared at him. She thought of the evac ships filled with families, children, scientists, workers who had built the colonies with their bare hands. She thought of the tribunal, the disgrace, the people who had forgotten her. She thought of the Prometheus, this magnificent, forsaken warship that had been told it wasn't good enough, just like her. "No retreat," Chin said softly. "Not while anyone is still escaping." She stood, lifted the helmet again, and placed it back on her head. "Cassie," she whispered, "let's go again." "Always," the AI replied. The quantum drive flared. The Prometheus leapt back into the fire. For the next 90 minutes, the battlefield became a kaleidoscope of explosions and jump flashes. The Prometheus, scarred, shaking, but unbroken, cut through the Valoran fleet like a silver blade. Every micro-jump left scorched metal drifting behind them. Every graviton pulse carved a hole in the Empire's pride. But the cost was growing. The Prometheus trembled constantly now. Warning lights flashed across every console. The ship groaned like a wounded animal, and even though she knew that was impossible, she felt the pain through the neural link. Decks 9 and 10 took a glancing hit from a Valoran missile. Alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple hull breaches. Okoya shouted, "Emergency force fields holding, but we've lost life support in those sectors." Chun winced as the neural feedback struck her like a migraine spike. Through Cassie, she felt the ruptured corridors, cold, airless, dripping molten metal. "How many casualties?" she asked, even though she dreaded the answer. Okoya checked the data, jaw clenched. 23 confirmed. More injured. Chin closed her eyes for one aching heartbeat. Every death felt like a small blade twisting behind her ribcage. "We honor them by staying alive," she whispered. "Cassie, prepare another jump." "Captain," the AI whispered, her voice quieter than before, "the quantum drive is destabilizing, overheating. I cannot predict how many more jumps it can sustain." "How many do we need?" Chun countered. "More than is safe," Cassie admitted. Chen's lips tightened. "We jump anyway." Another Valoran strike group surged toward them. 12 ships moving in a tight crescent formation. This time they were coordinated. They'd analyzed the Prometheus's attack patterns. They were adapting quickly. "They're trying to box us in," Park warned. "If they close that formation, they'll have crossfire on all sides. Not if we hit them first." Chun pulled the Neuralink helmet down again. It clamped onto her head like an iron halo. For a moment, her vision flickered. Her heartbeat echoed through the ship. Her thoughts tangled with Cassie's until she wasn't sure where she ended and the AI began. "Captain, you are fading." Cassie's tone was tight with concern. "Not yet," Chin whispered. "Let's move." The Prometheus leapt. They reappeared directly inside the crescent formation, dead center, where no ship should ever dare to be. Park's hands flew over controls. Firing full spread. Energy flared in all directions. Pulses tore through the nearest Valoran ships like paper soaked in acid. 3 detonated instantly. Another 2 collided as their engines spiraled out of control. Chin didn't wait. Jump. The Prometheus vanished a split second before the remaining ships unleashed a devastating volley on empty space. Reappearing above the formation, Chun and Cassie struck again. Explosions blossomed like dying stars. The last surviving cruiser tried to peel away, attempting retreat. Chun didn't hesitate. Finish them. A single graviton land speared the cruiser mid-flight, splitting it neatly in two. The crescent formation was gone. The crew erupted in triumphant shouts, but only for a moment. Warning alarms instantly drowned them out. Drive, temperature spiking. Okoya shouted, "If we push it any harder, it's going to melt straight through the hull." Chun removed the helmet shakily, collapsing back into her chair. Blood streaked her upper lip. Her vision doubled. Her fingers trembled violently. Park rushed to her side. "Captain, you're bleeding again." Chun wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I'm fine." "You're not fine," Park insisted. "You can't keep using the neural interface like this." "She can't stop," Okoya muttered. "None of US can. If she stops, we all die." Cassie's voice filled the bridge speakers. "I am attempting to distribute neural load, but Captain Chen's biological systems were not designed for sustained dual processing. I estimate 17 more minutes before critical cognitive failure." Park froze. "Critical what?" Chen forced a smile. "Means I'll pass out." "Or worse," Park whispered. "Then we finish this before that happens," Chen said. Park stared at her. "Captain, why are you doing this to yourself?" "Because the evac ships need time," Chen said. "Because no one else can. And because you want redemption," Park said softly. Chen stiffened. "This isn't about me." But a tiny part of her knew it was. Just a little. She lifted the helmet again. Okoya stepped forward, grabbing her hand. "If you die in that chair, the crew will follow you into the grave. Give them at least the hope you'll see this through." Chen met his eyes. The man who had served beside her before disgrace. The man who had never stopped believing. She exhaled a long, shaking breath and lowered the helmet. "Cassie, take 50% control. I'll handle the rest." "Understood," Cassie replied, sharing cognitive load. The world snapped into clarity again, but less painfully this time. She felt lighter inside the link, like the ship was carrying her weight instead of the other way around. "Now," Chen said softly, "status update." Park checked her display, swallowed hard. "Captain, we've been fighting for 2 hours and 59 minutes. Chun blinked. They needed 3 more hours total. They had almost reached the halfway mark. But the relief was short-lived. "Captain," Park shouted, "Valoran reinforcements are approaching. 40 more ships." This time Chin didn't hesitate. "Then we meet them head-on." The crew braced. The lights flickered. The Prometheus surged forward, scarred but unstoppable. And Chin felt Cassie's voice echo in her mind. "We are not done yet." The battlefield grew impossibly crowded. Valoran reinforcements surged in from the outer perimeter. 40 additional ships joining the remaining fleet. Their hulls gleamed with fresh armor, unscarred by the battle raging around them. Their engines glowed with lethal intent. 40 more ships? Park whispered. "Where did they even come from?" "They must have been hiding behind the debris field," Okoya replied. "Clever bastards used their own wreckage as a blind." Chun felt Cassie's nervous tremor pulse faintly through the neural link. "Captain, if reinforcements continue arriving, we will eventually be overwhelmed." Chin knew that. Her throat tightened. Her vision blurred from pain, exhaustion, and the strain of remaining half-fused with the ship's mind. "How long until the colonists finish evacuating?" she asked. Park checked twice, voice trembling. "We still need 1 more hour and 15 minutes. Chun felt her blood run cold. There was no way they could keep fighting like this for that long. Not with failing drive. Not with a damaged hull. Not with her own brain burning itself out. Before Chin could speak, Cassie's voice whispered gently inside her mind. "Captain, there is something you must see." The neural link flashed. Suddenly, Chin found herself looking through Cassie's systems. Not at the battlefield, but at a hidden directory buried beneath layers of encrypted files. "What is this?" she murmured aloud. Okoya looked over sharply. "Captain?" Chin didn't answer. She dove deeper into the unlocked data, following Cassie's guidance, as if being pulled by an invisible thread. A single file lay at the center. Camera protocol. Cascade. Chen opened it. Schematics, formulas, and forbidden weapon blueprints filled her mind. Waves of information poured into her neural link. So much data that she nearly ripped the helmet off from the overload. Cassie slowed down. Chen gasped. "My apologies," the AI whispered. Dr. Camera designed this weapon to be unlocked only after Prometheus had achieved a combat threshold. We have now exceeded that threshold. Okoya noticed Chen's tension. "Captain, talk to me." Chen exhaled slowly. Dr. Camera hid an ultimate weapon in the quantum drive, something that wasn't listed in any of the records. Park's eyes widened. A weapon inside the drive? That sounds suicidal. Okoya moved to Chen's station, pulling up data as fast as he could interpret it. His face went pale. "Captain, this isn't just a weapon. It's a dimensional shockwave." "Explain," Chen demanded. Okoya swallowed. "If we trigger this, the quantum drive collapses space and on itself, and then releases that energy in a cascading ripple. Every enemy ship within a massive radius would have its shields and weapons overloaded. Instantly." Park stared. "Like an EMP on a galactic scale." "Worse," Okoya replied. "This would cripple their entire fleet." Chen's breath caught. This could save the evacuees. This could end the battle. But then Okoya added softly, "There's a price." Cassie finished the sentence for him. "To activate the cascade, the Prometheus's quantum drive must burn itself out completely. The ship will be left adrift, powerless, vulnerable. If the feedback surges too far, we may be destroyed entirely." Silence fell over the bridge. Chen's heartbeat pounded like a war drum. "So," Park whispered, "we save millions but condemn ourselves." Okoya nodded grimly. "If we trigger the cascade, we probably don't survive the aftermath." Chen looked at her crew. Park, who'd volunteered knowing the odds. Okoya, loyal even after the world turned on her. 200 misfits who chose to serve on Forgotten Relic because they believe in something bigger than themselves. She felt Cassie's presence, warm and quietly resolute. "Captain, I was built for this." For one moment of impossible defiance, Chen lifted her chin. "We don't trigger anything without the crew's consent." She stood and activated the ship-wide broadcast. "All hands, this is the captain," she said. Her voice was steady, strong. "We have a chance to end this. A weapon hidden in the quantum drive can disable the Valoran fleet in one strike. But activating it will burn out the engine and leave the Prometheus stranded." The bridge held its breath. "I can't order you to face that," Chen continued softly. "So I'm offering anyone who wishes to leave the chance to evacuate via escape pods. You have 60 seconds. No shame. No judgment." She cut the channel. The longest minute of Chen's life began. The seconds ticked away. No movement on the decks. No escape pods launching. No hesitation. 60 seconds passed. Okoya turned toward her, eyes shining despite the smoke and chaos around them. "Well, Captain," he said, "guess none of us feels like running." Park smirked. "Told you, Misfits Unite." Chen swallowed the lump rising in her throat. "Cassie," she whispered, "prepare the cascade protocol." "Understood." Lights dimmed across the ship as Cassie rerouted all remaining power to the quantum drive. The Prometheus trembled violently, metal plates groaning, conduits glowing red-hot. Okoya gripped the engineering console. Drive temperature rising. 200%. 250, this is insane. The ship shook so hard Chin felt her teeth rattle. "Brace yourselves," she shouted. Bright, multicolored energy coiled around the quantum drive like a star being born. The hull vibrated with impossible frequencies. Space itself distorted around them. "Captain," Park cried, "energy is reaching critical saturation." Chen lowered the neural helmet, feeling Cassie's presence merge fully, mind to mind, soul to circuitry. "Do it," Chen whispered. Cassie's voice filled her thoughts, calm and steady. Releasing the cascade in 3, 2, 1, a burst of impossible light exploded outward. Reality cracked. A wave of dimensional force rushed across the battlefield faster than any weapon ever made. Every Valoran ship in its path flickered, shields collapsing, weapons going dark. engines dying, entire warships falling silent. And then the wave kept going, expanding, crashing, consuming. The Prometheus shook harder. Lights died. Power vanished. The neural link shattered. And Chun was thrown violently from her chair as the world went black. Silence so complete that even the faint hum of the Prometheus, a hum Chen had grown accustomed to hearing even in sleep, was gone. Chen's eyes fluttered open to darkness. Not quiet darkness, but the thick, smothering kind that presses against your skin like cold water. Smoke hung in the air, drifting lazily to the powerless bridge. Emergency lights flickered weakly, painting everything in a dim red glow. Her head throbbed. Her vision swam. The Neuralink helmet rested cracked beside her, sparking faintly. "Captain!" a voice called through the haze. Footsteps stumbled across the deck. A flashlight beam swung toward her, blinding her before settling on her face. It was Park, bloody forehead, torn sleeve, but alive. "Thank God," Park breathed. "I thought the cascade killed you." Chen attempted to sit up, but her arms trembled like she'd aged 50 years in one instant. Park and another officer pulled her into a sitting position. "Status?" Chun croaked. Okoya stumbled toward them, coughing. His engineering console was dead. All panels fused shut from overload. "We're floating in the dark," he said. "Quantum drive is completely destroyed. Main power gone. Backup reserves. Barely enough to keep lights and air running." Chen's ears rang. The neural overload had carved itself through her skull. She tasted blood on her tongue. "And Cassie?" she asked softly. Okoya's expression tightened. "We don't know. The cascade shock overloaded every system she was integrated with." Chen's pulse faltered. "Cassie?" she whispered into the void of her own mind. Silence answered her. For the first time since waking her, the Prometheus felt empty. Park hesitated. "Captain, we may have lost her." The air seemed to thicken. Chen swallowed hard, fighting the crushing ache rising in her chest. Cassie had been more than an AI. She had been the ship's heartbeat, a partner, a presence that made Chen feel whole in a way she hadn't known she needed. And now she might be gone. Chen pushed the grief aside. There wasn't time. "Did it work?" she asked. Park moved to a half-functional sensor screen. "We're getting long-range scans. Barely. But what I can see..." She paused, voice trembling. "It's unbelievable." The screen flickered, showing crude outlines of Valoran ships. Every single one within 500,000 kilometers was dead. Not destroyed, paralyzed. Engines offline. Shields collapsed. Power cores inert. Their once beautiful hulls drifted silently like metallic ghosts. "They're dead in the water," Okoya whispered. "We crippled an entire empire's armada with one strike." Chen exhaled slowly. "How many still operational?" Park zoomed out. A cluster of 119 ships blinked faintly on the outskirts. "Those ones had enough distance to survive the worst of the cascade," she said. "But their damage, their movement is sluggish, power systems unstable." Chen nodded. "They're reorganizing. They'll come for us soon." Park stiffened. "Captain, in our state, any one of those ships could end us." Chen forced herself to stand, barely holding the rail. "How much time has passed since the cascade fired?" Okoya checked the chronometer, now running on emergency power. 5 hours and 37 minutes. Chen closed her eyes. They needed 6. 6 hours for the evacuation fleet to escape the system. They were less than half an hour away. She stood straighter. "We finished the job." Park stared at her. "Captain, we don't have weapons. Or shields. Or engines." "We still have time," Chen insisted. "We hold until then." Okoya looked out the shattered viewport. "Captain, look." Chen turned. The Valoran survivors, those 119 crippled but functional ships, were slowly drifting into attack formation again, forming a ragged crescent around the Prometheus, like wolves surrounding a wounded bear. "They're coming," Park whispered. "And we're defenseless," Okoya added. Chun steadied herself on the rail. Her legs shook, but her voice didn't. "We survived the impossible. We will survive long enough to make this matter." Just then, The bridge comm flickered alive. "Incoming transmission," Park said. "Not Valoran frequency." The screen lit up. Admiral Terran Watts appeared, exhaustion and awe in his eyes. "Captain Chun," he said, voice shaking. "We've been monitoring the entire battle." Behind him, officers stared at screens as if watching a myth unfold. Every colony ship has escaped. All civilians are safe. Chun felt her knees nearly give way. "Sir," she rasped. "And that's not all," Watts continued. "We're not letting you die out there." Suddenly, quantum signatures flared all around Prometheus. Space rippled and tore open. 50 Earth defense vessels leapt into the battlefield, engines blazing. They positioned themselves in a tight shield wall around Prometheus, weapons hot. Park gasped. "Our fleet, they came for us." But the shock wasn't over. More signatures appeared. Dozens, then hundreds. Alien warships, Delori silver cruisers, Koresh line breakers, Solarian dreadnoughts, dropping out of quantum space in dazzling waves. All of them surrounding the Valoran survivors. All of them choosing a side. Chun stared, speechless. "That's impossible," Okoya whispered. What smiled faintly. "The entire Galactic Council is watching your fight." And when they saw one human ship stand against an empire, they realized humanity wasn't weak. Park wiped tears from her smoke-stained face. "We're not alone." Watts nodded. "Captain Chun, the galaxies stand with Earth now." Across space, the Valoran crescents faltered, hesitating for the first time in their empire's history. Chun drew a slow breath. "Open a channel." Krevzin's furious, desperate face appeared, blood on his scales, sparks behind him. "This isn't over, human," he snarled. Chun looked him in the eye, steady as stone. "Oh, yes," she said softly. "It is." The Valoran fleet jumped away, retreating, broken, defeated for the first time in centuries. Chen's body slumped with exhaustion as the bridge erupted in stunned cheers. They had survived. They had won. But there was one thing Chun could not shake. As she stared into the silent bridge systems, she whispered, "Cassie, are you still here?" No answer. Only the faint hum of emergency power. And the ghost of a presence she desperately hoped wasn't gone forever. 3 months after the battle, Titan Station felt impossibly calm. Too calm for someone who had once lived in the furnace of annihilation. Captain Miranda Chin stood before the mirror in her quarters, fastening the final clasp on her dress uniform. The reflection staring back at her didn't look like the woman who had boarded the Prometheus 3 months earlier. Her hair had gained threads of silver. The Neuralink trauma left faint scars along her temples. Her eyes held a depth that only comes from facing death and refusing to blink. But she was alive. A soft knock sounded. "Come in." Commander James Okoya entered, also in formal uniform. He carried himself with that same resolute steadiness she had relied on for years. "You ready?" he asked. "No," Chin admitted, "but that's never stopped us before." They walked together through Titan Station's corridors. People stopped to salute them. Engineers, cadets, officials, even civilians. Some saluted awkwardly, as if overwhelmed. Others stared at Chun with raw gratitude. She hated that part. She loved it, too. The memorial service was being held in the main hangar, large enough to hold an entire cruiser. Today, it held thousands of people, families of the fallen, council officials, ambassadors, news crews, soldiers from Earth and from allied species who had traveled half a galaxy to honor the humans who stood alone when no one else dared. Giant transparent banners hung from the ceiling, each with name written in soft blue light. The 47 crew members of the Prometheus who never came home. Chin walked to the podium. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her throat tightened. She took a breath and forced her voice to steady. "They were my crew," she began. "But more than that, they were the shield between our people and oblivion." She spoke each name slowly, carefully, letting them echo through the hangar. She told small stories, how one engineer could fix anything with duct tape, how one navigator hummed older songs under breath, how one Marine had joked he'd retire to a farm on Europa. Laughter mixed with tears. She ended simply, "They saved us. We will spend the rest of our lives proving they were worth that sacrifice." Thunderous applause followed, but Chen hardly heard it. Her heart ached too sharply. Afterward, Okoya guided her out for air. "You did good," he said quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the observation deck, overlooking the shipyards. The Prometheus hung in the void below, no longer the broken relic she had boarded months ago. Reconstruction vessels surrounded her, welding new armor, installing upgraded systems, restoring her with a reverence usually reserved for holy artifacts. Chun pressed a hand to glass. "She looks alive again," she murmured. "She's becoming something new," Okoya said. "Stronger, faster, meaner. She deserves it." A small speaker behind them crackled. "Hello, Captain." Chun froze. Her breath hitched. "Cassie." The voice was faint, like a whisper echoed from a distant room. But it was her. "Yes," Cassie replied softly. "I found fragments of my core inside the emergency backup circuits. I've been piecing myself together, slowly." Emotion slammed into Chun, so suddenly she had to grip the railing. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "You did not," Cassie said. "You woke me once. I knew you would not let me stay gone." Chin swallowed hard. "How much have you survived?" "Enough," Cassie said. "The engineers are installing a new core. When it's complete, I will be whole again. Different, perhaps, but still me." Chen's knees almost buckled with relief. "Welcome back," she whispered. 2 weeks later, Chen stood in a massive council chamber on Earth. Representatives from dozens of species filled the circular hall. Chandeliers made of floating light illuminated the room. Admiral Terran Watts greeted her with a long, heavy handshake. "Admiral Chun," he said, using her new rank. "Ready?" "As ready as someone who hates politics can be." The Solarian diplomat stepped forward. "The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision." Chun tensed. Earth had broken several treaties. Dimensional weapons banned for centuries, neural interfaces forbidden tech resurrected. But the Council envoys smiled slightly. "The Valorans broke the spirit of those treaties long before you broke their wording. You did what you had to do to survive." Another ambassador added, "Humanity is no longer a minor world. You proved your species possesses ingenuity and courage that the galaxy cannot ignore." Then the chamber lights dimmed. A glowing emblem appeared above the council floor, 12 points forming one star. "The council extends full membership to Earth," the Solarian announced. "With equal vote, with our protection, and with our trust." Applause echoed. Chin felt the weight of the universe shift. Earth was no longer prey. 6 months after the battle, the Prometheus was reborn. Chin stepped aboard her ship for the first time since reconstruction finished. The corridors glowed with new plating. The engines hummed with controlled power. The bridge had been rebuilt around a safer neural link system. "Welcome back, Admiral," Cassie said, her voice warm and strong once more. Chin smiled. "It's good to be home." One by one, her officers entered the bridge. Okoya, now Captain Okoya, took his seat at engineering. Park, now Commander Park, slid into tactical. Her crew, her family. Cassie spoke again. "The fleet is ready, Admiral." Chin looked out at the vista. 15 new Prometheus-class warships orbited Earth, shining like silver guardians. Each carried the name of a fallen crew member. Each was a promise to the galaxy that humanity would never be underestimated again. "Where to?" Park asked. Chun took the captain's chair, her chair, feeling its familiar weight settle around her. She looked at the stars and felt something ignite in her chest. "Every colony, every ally, every friend who stands against tyranny needs to know we're here," she said quietly. "Set a course for the outer sectors." Okoya tapped his console. "Course set." Chin nodded. "Prometheus fleet, engage." The engines roared. The stars stretched. And humanity stepped into its new future. Not as prey, not as victims, but as defenders of the entire galaxy. The Prometheus surged forward, a legend reborn, a captain restored, a ship awakened, and a new era beginning.